does everybody have one of these? Okay, well then let's go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. Boy, I didn't realize that threat would work so well. I've never had so many people in one of these breakout sessions. Hopefully you won't be disappointed after we cover the very quick fix to remove those mark as done blocks. But everybody should have a handout. I'm not really one for paper. And that's why there's a QR code in the top left, because there are links in this. And so if you like the digital version where you can click on those links, scan the QR code with your phone or favorite QR scanner, and you can have the digital version and those links will be live. So in this session, we're going to just cover, again, really kind of two basic features. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't skip my actual notes. First of all, welcome, and this is being recorded. So just a heads up, that's why that camera is following me around. And what that means is if you aren't here, or if you don't remember everything I say, or don't take as prodigious notes as you might want, I will be posting this to the EdTech YouTube channel afterwards so that you can go back and rewatch it, because this is good TV, right? Yes. So we'll be doing that. And then Moodle practice course, anything you want to practice, I always try and plug the practice course. You can find it in the left side, which Kay told me in our very last faculty meeting. I never realized it was there. Neither practice course was there, it's not there. But anyways, you can try stuff in the practice course. Practice course is a great way to take some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Ben, we fix it. I found. So sorry about that. Sorry for making you run over here. Thank you. The practice course is a great way for you to take any of this stuff that you learn and you want to try it out and see what it looks like without screwing up your own Moodle page. Not that you can really screw up your own Moodle page, because you can reset it with an easy import function. So it's really not a big deal. But if you want to test things out, this is a great place to try things out without being concerned about messing anything up. By the way, don't put anything in here that you don't want messed up, because somebody else might play around with it. So you should just be aware of that. Okay, so let's start with the very first thing. You've all seen those little boxes that say mark as done. So I'll just right up front, how do you get rid of those? So when you're in your Moodle page, you go up to settings, you go to edit settings, you scroll down to completion tracking, and you change it to no. That's it. If you put it on yes, then there's all those boxes. So if that's all you wanted, I won't feel offended. You can all leave now. That's how you do that. I should let you know, and this is something that Lucy, our Moodle administrator, was talking to me about. So you can disable it, but you should be aware it was implemented in May, April, sometime around there by Moodle. It is an accessibility function. That's why it's there. Okay. Now, I don't have any more details as of yet. I do want to try and sit down with Lucy and try and get some more details, or look more into the documentation about what specifically it is, what accessibility function it is meant to provide, because the goal here is not to mess up students that would need this functionality, of course. But I think we can all understand that it may have been an accessibility function. It may not have been implemented in the best way by Moodle, but yeah, so that's how you get rid of it. If you look at it from a student viewpoint, if you go up, does everybody know how to do that? That's another interesting functionality. If you ever want to see what your students see, you can change your role. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah. You can switch your role by clicking your name and switch that to, let's say, student. And then you can see what the mark as done functionality does. It just keeps track of things that you've done. So next to all these activities, you can click the box and it'll turn to a green arrow that says done. So that's how you get rid of it. Consider that. Again, I'll try and look into more documentation and give updates in the future about why that functionality is there. But I can totally understand why you might want to remove it, because again, it just expands everything. It doesn't look particularly nice. So I do understand that question.
With that, on our end, is it disabled student from being able to track?
So my current understanding, again, I haven't looked into deep documentation for this yet, but my understanding is yes, that it does, that you're doing a global setting for the availability of completion tracking.
Yeah,
Rex?
and you can actually monkey with every single one of the assignments or documents or whatever you put on there. Like I've taken all of my PowerPoints and taken that function off, but on all the assignments, I kept that function on for the students to be able to do that.
Yeah, so there is activity completion. So that was like the global setting. Let's see, I have it turned, no, turn editing on. So if you go to turn editing on, each activity itself has an activity completion setting in there. There we go. And so right now it says students can visually mark. And then you can turn that off. Go to save and return. And now we don't see it at that assignment level. So what I showed you was kind of global. You can turn it on and off individually. It takes a few more steps, but yeah, thank you, Rex. Okay, so any questions about activity completion tracking and those mark as done buttons? Okay, so that's how you take care of those. Okay, so the other things that we're going to talk about. One of the things that I want to show you is just how to make your, actually, let me turn these off. It's not so long, but what are some ways that you can make your Moodle page a little bit more engaging or personalize it, things like that. So we're going to cover a few of that. So the first thing I want is to, first of all, point you to Jessup's Branding Style Guide. So if you're doing any of this stuff where you're trying to make it personalized, it's useful to know Jessup's Branding Style Guide. So if you look on the handout page, and if you go to the digital version, the first link is to our own Jessup marketing page. So Jessup has a marketing page where they publish all of the style guides for anything that you do. So in particular, you can get the hex codes, for example, the Jessup colors. Like if you want to do something with blue, but you don't want to just use generic blue, you could use like the Jessup blue, and the hex key, like the code for that is in there, and I'll show you how to use that in some of the things that we'll do. So that's just a useful thing to note. Like if you're also choosing like different fonts that you might want to use, you can follow Jessup branding if you would like. So the first thing is the course image. This is useful because it's the first thing that your students are going to see when they go to like their dashboard. So by default, you have kind of a static image that's, you know, kind of looks like 1950s wallpaper, which isn't, yeah, it's vintage. But you might want to make it more personalized. So like the practice course, I think Rose put this on there years ago. It's a scene from The Office where he's just screaming no over and over again. But you can do that. You can put images, or you can put GIFs, properly pronounced GIFs with a hard G because it stands for graphical interchange format, not GIF. But that's a different argument. So I always try and do something interesting for mine so that it really stands out. You know, the first thing they see, they're going to know which class is their math class, and I usually choose a theme for the semester. So there's Einstein there, and then I did the Travolta meme, where he's in front of a blackboard with a whole bunch of math, and he's kind of confused because I feel like that's how my students often feel when they're in my classes.
Everybody's copyright.
I will talk about that. So copyright, I think a meme is actually covered under fair use. But some of the things that I will talk about will be issues that you would need to think about copyright. And I've actually already had that discussion with using some of these functionalities with other instructors. So I'll touch on that when we come to it. So how do you do that? So you go into your course page. Oops, not, I'm sorry. You go into your course page. And again, most of these things really are just a couple clicks if you know they're there. So then you go up to edit settings for your Moodle course page. And you go down to course image. It's still loading, but you can literally just drag and drop a file right into there, and that'll become your course image. A couple of things to note when you're putting a file in there, it is kind of an interesting aspect ratio. So it's 281 by 150 in terms of pixels. So what that means is if you put anything in there that's wider than that, it will kind of center and auto crop it. I had a lot of trouble with my Travolta because his head kept getting cut off. So I had to, there are plenty of websites that will for free will crop images or GIFs for you. So I just did a Google search for GIF cropping, and I found a website. I uploaded my little image and I chose like the window that I wanted it cropped to, and it spit it back out as another GIF that then I could use that was the correct aspect ratio that had it framed the way I wanted. So just be aware of that. If you take an image, it might not crop the way you're thinking. But you can do that. For some examples of really creative uses of that, the digital version of this has an example section that I didn't include with this because it was much longer and I wanted it in full color. But I shared Fritz Moga's his course pages and the images that he chose, and he chose really nice images that kind of exemplify each one of his courses, and they look really good. So that's how you do a course image. How many of you already use course images? Oh, just a couple. How many of you will use it now? See, okay, good. All right, good, excellent. Let's go back out to this. What's next? Oh, banner. Let's go into creation banner. So some of you have already seen banners. They don't happen by default, but if you get any of the online classes, generally there's a banner included by default up in general. So you can make your own for those if you'd like, or you can do exactly what they did for this one if you want something a little bit more plain. I kind of prefer like the simple aesthetic, like I'm not big into lots of images except on my course image page. But so the way that this particular is done, if we click, if you click the edit button down here, and if you go into one that doesn't have it already, where's the practice course? It's this where it's the welcome. It's just the title for this general section that's included in all. So you would just click the edit button under that, the little cog there. And it's part of the summary. So the way that the online team or PACE, has in the past made those course banners is they've actually made use of table functionality. So all they're doing is actually sticking in a 1-by-1 table, giving it a background and centering the text and making sure it spans. So you can do this with a table. You just do, you click the insert table button, it's right there, you can expand it. So to expand this by default, it's just a simple menu. You click this box with the keyboard and expands it. You click the table menu. You just do a 1-by-1 table. For the width, you want it to extend the full width of your course page. So the easiest way to do that is to just type in 100%. If you type in 100%, it'll automatically expand the width to the full width of your table there. And then we can go to advanced, and that's where you would choose a color. So if you go over to advanced, you can choose border colors, background colors. You can actually put in frames. It's even possible to insert background images. I'm going to just do a simple color here. So you click the color box, and this is where you could make use of like that Jessup branding. I don't actually have the code memorized, but if you look in that Jessup brand guide, it'll give you the little hexadecimal code. If you type that right in here, that'll choose the Jessup blue or Jessup red or whichever one you want. And you put it right in there. For this, I'm just going to use the actual color picker. So I'll just pick some a lighter blue, and apply, and then insert. Did I not insert that? Oh, that's the border color. I clicked the wrong one. That's why. Sorry about that. Here's background color, bottom one. There we go. There we go. And so then we get our background color. And then you can just type in some text. You will need to make sure that your text color obviously is different than the background color or shows up. So with these darker colors, I'm going to choose white. Just like and let me change the font size for that. Font size, there we go. And let me center that text. And there we have practice course. And now we have a top banner. It doesn't have to be, if you want something that's not just like a simple banner like that you're creating, you can use actual GIFs and or images for this as well. So another example in the document that I shared shows one of Erin Hill's Moodle pages, and she has as her banner just a picture insert with a verse, I believe. And so there are lots of websites, and I have some of those listed here, just a couple that you might find useful. So there's a meme generator. Canva is a useful one because it allows you to create kind of animated banners, although if you want really high definition ones, that's when it starts requiring like a license, not a license, but what's the word I'm like an account, a paid account. But there's plenty of stuff online where you can just get an image and then upload it into there. So again, if you wanted an image instead, you would just press the settings, and then there's an insert image button right here. So you would just insert an image that would there, and you can expand it, and that could be kind of your banner image, whatever you want. So that's one way to make it. And so those websites are useful because again, even if you don't want it here, a lot of these, a lot of the forum posts, tags, labels, all have this ability. They all have the same text editing box. So there's lots of different places you can insert images all over your Moodle page just by clicking insert image, even insert videos. I'll show you later how to do some inserting videos, embedded videos. Yes, Michelle?
I'm not seeing how to insert a banner, because like in my course, like you went to the practice course and it already said welcome, and so you're able to edit it. Like in my courses, there's nothing there.
So let me go, let's see, do I have one that's unedited? There will still be that little edit button, and even though there's no name, you'll still see that little cog beneath it.
When you put the edit settings on, you put
But the little cog, like it's
Yes, in the top left, because the general section is always there.
oh, there's no like
The one that I don't think I've,
journal.
no, this one's I've edited already.
The edit section.
yeah, in there.
So, and moved on, but you can see it's not changed.
What course is it? Because I could probably open up the
Go
course.
into, like, any of- there's like a,
Then you put.
Which section are you teaching, Michelle?
Math for liberal
it
studies.
looks like there's not like a.
So it's this cog right here.
So, but that's like where you do it?
Yes. So you'll know you're in the right one when it says general. So when you click on that cog and it says general on the top left, that's the default section that every Moodle web page has, and you actually can't remove it, even when you change. So we're going to talk later in the functionality section about how to change like how sections are displayed. Like we're going to talk about collapsible sections and things like that. This one is default and it's always there and it doesn't change its kind of functionality because mostly it's just kind of a title section. So that cog in the upper left hand corner. Yeah.
I wanted to mention that for any online courses, any of these changes you make will not be held in the master. So if it rolls over for the next term, none of those things will be there. You'll either have to do them. Because that's just the way the masters are set up in the online programs. So, just FYI.
Yeah.
If it rolls over, you won't see those changes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, even in your own courses, obviously, every semester you get a new blank Moodle page, and so if you want to carry over these, you'd have to do an import from a previous course. Does everybody here know how to import a previous course? Because nobody should be hopefully like reconstructing their entire Moodle page from scratch every semester, because that's obviously what? Yeah, yeah. So if you want to import a course so that you're not doing it from scratch, let me do one in mine. So you go into your course, let's see. And we'll go to Math 410. So I'm teaching this. I've already played around with, incidentally, this is a banner I made on Canva just for fun. I'm not going to keep it there. It's not quite my style, but that's the kind of thing you can do for a banner in Canva. So if you want to import a previous course, you go up to the edit button in the top right, and then you click on import. Then what it'll do is it'll allow you to search a course. So you'll have to kind of know what course you're trying to search for. So for me, I would just type in Math 410. And then it'll limit the search to any other of the Math 410 courses I've done. And then you can click on it. So let's see, that's the current one. Let's do the fall 21.
Hey Bradley, it's gonna only let you import dual courses, right?
No, I'm pretty sure you can import, like, what's a Bible course?
Christian Foundations, Old Testament,
So what would the
Bible 101.
BIBL or?
L, yep.
Yeah, so you can import anybody's courses. I don't know how the other people will feel about that. And presumably it wouldn't necessarily be relevant. Like, I'm not going to import Bible 101 into my Math 410 course. That wouldn't really be that useful for me.
If you're helping captions.
Oh, yeah, yeah, if you're helping. So you can search any course that's been offered and you can import. When you're going through, let's choose one that's fall 20, that's relatively recent. And you can also, you don't have to import the whole thing. It's not monolithic. You can choose what things you're going to import and what things you don't. For example, I will create notes in class each semester and then put those on Moodle. I don't need to import those because I'm going to remake all those. And if I imported them at the beginning of the semester, I just have to delete them all, which I did. It was an accident and it was a pain. So you can go through and say, okay, I want, these are just all the things it'll show you. And then you can choose assignment or individual entity by entity. So like you maybe don't want to import the Zoom block again, or you don't want week one's PowerPoints. You can go through the entire thing, the entire course, and pick and choose. Yes, I'm going to import this. No, I'm not going to import this, so on and so forth, and do that.
Can you review like what things are included in a blank shell? Because what has been happening for us is that when we're importing, we are getting duplicates of different.
There's
like,
really,
announcements
yeah,
and-
there's really only 3 things included in a blank shell. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you at the moment, but there's only thinking. They all come with an announcement already there. So the announcement form is already there. They will include 14 sections divvied up by week. So what, like August 20, start on a Sunday night, so 22nd, 21st through 28th or whatever. And then every week after that, there'll be 14 of those. Did I say 3 things? Really, that's it. Like announcements, and then the 14 weeks are the only things that should be there by default. Now, if you import anything, particularly if you're not using the week view, if you're using like separate topical sections, it'll import on top of that. So I used to get that all the time where I'd end up with 2 announcement things. It doesn't really matter. You've used it, you just delete the previous one that you've used. If not, but then you just delete either one of them. Or if you don't use them at all, you just delete both.
How do you avoid duplicates when you're importing into like a course that's already there, but it's, let's say it's the wrong one, or it's an old one and you want to use like, in the MACP, we have like a Moodle shell roster.
Yeah.
Where we have kind of our master shells, and that's so each each.
You would, when you're doing that import, you would need to uncheck things that you don't want to bring into the course.
So
you
we have
need
to
to-
literally manually uncheck. So here's the thing, it's like, if, let's say there's a wrong, like a course in there that has like old info and we want to use the new, most updated one. We literally are having to manually go in and delete what's in the wrong one. So that when we import it, we're not confused as to, oh wait, what's the old one and what's the new one?
Right.
Because they have the same titles and.
I think there are some functionalities for that, but that would probably require making like essentially like a course master with just the things you want. So
But it's still creating duplicates is our issue.
let's talk more afterwards, because I think that problem is getting a little bit more complicated than this. No, you're good, but let's talk more. So those are a few things for maybe to bring a little bit of personality, but I do want to talk about some other functionality issues. So the first is we talked about the completion tracking. Just for sake of time, let me jump down to some of the, let's talk about, oh, do I not have it there? Did I do it? Well, collapsible sections. I can't remember if it's on there or if I messed it up, but collapsible sections. Everybody should be using collapsible sections. So by default, I think the week view is actually in collapsible format now, but if you don't use those, this presentation of where it used to be just you had your section and then you had all the materials in it and you had to scroll through, you don't have to deal with that anymore. You can make these menus collapsible now. That's also through settings. So you go to the settings for the course page, and then in course format, you can change to the different style formats. So the default is week format. Where it is weekly format. So that's the default. So when you first get your Moodle course page, it's in weekly format. If you want those collapsible menus, then you want to change to collapsed topics. If you change that while the weeks are all still in there, it'll still be labeled with all those weeks. They'll just be collapsible now. But then as you add new sections in, they would also be collapsible. Interestingly enough, there's a bunch of different course formats that all have different potential use cases. I haven't used a lot of them. I tend to be more of just a collapsed topics format person, but you're always welcome to experiment and see what those looks like. And again, the practice course is a great place to just try changing the course format and seeing what happens, because they do have a lot of unique different formats. But collapsible topics, even if you're still using weeks format, is really useful. Yes, Mark.
Students collapse and uncollapse thing, you don't have to go in and do it for them to be able to see it.
No, correct. So they will have, if you're in collapsed topics, they will have those same options that you see here, where just clicking on them will collapse and uncollapse them. Or there's two buttons at the top. Incidentally, you can't hide these buttons. That's one of those options under the topic. But by default, there's these two buttons that say open all, close all. So students will have all of those options. It also saves your last view. So if you open one of these and then you leave and then you come back, that one will still be open. So if they're in a particular week or you're working in a particular week, you can just open that one and go in and out, and it's not going to be all collapsed every time you come in. You have to reopen it. It'll kind of save your last view. So that's really useful. So collapsed topics is really, it's both visual and it's highly functional because it makes you not have to scroll through everything. Labels. Labels are really useful for dividing up your materials. So right now, this is kind of bad. I have just like monolithic, just a list of a whole bunch of things that my students might want access to. Labels, and you see these used in all the PACE courses, are a way of kind of dividing up that with titles. So if we go down to add activity or resource, and you go to all, you can choose a label. And by default, again, a label is just a way kind of creating like a header almost. And so you could type in something like tests. So they usually post like test solutions afterwards, or test solutions. And it'll give me this, and you can change the format. You can go in there and you can make it bold, but it's just a little piece of text. And so then you can use this, particularly if you make it bold or something like that. where it'll kind of offset or divide up, give you further division of what's in your class topics. You can put other things in there. Again, you can use a label as a way of inserting a video right into the stream of topics. You can insert an image. So because it uses that same text editor, anything that you can insert in those text editors, you can insert there as well.
Related to that, Brad, is there a way to insert a folder?
Yes, a couple different ways, and that's one of the things I want to talk about. So it also depends on kind of what you mean by folder. So let's actually let's jump to that. So if you want to insert a folder with a bunch of other content kind of inside of that, there's a potential a couple different ways. It does have just a straight up folder activity. Where is it? There it is, folder. And it's a way to just dump further files into that. When they click on it, it'll kind of take them to an expanded web page with all those files listed into it. You'd get a very similar functionality if you kind of did, we'll also talk about page, if we have time. We're kind of running low on time. In fact, are we out of time? We're gonna be out of time. One other thing that I want to say, so you can use folder, but it requires you to upload everything to Moodle. It may be a slightly better way or more useful, depending on what kind of files you're sharing, is linking. Linking is through URLs is a really, really useful function that it seems simple on the surface because you're just inserting a URL, but depending on the URL you insert, come on, there we go. There's a lot of functionality. So in particular, one of the things I didn't quite get to today, but maybe I'll get to in the next session and we'll upload it, that video. You can insert external URLs and you can give it a title so it doesn't just show the URL code. But one thing you can do, for example, is you can link directly to text. So if you find a text that you're using in your course through the library, for example, those texts that are online have permalinks up at the top. And so you can directly access courses, like, for example, oh, it takes so long to navigate this. But I have an example of this where I link to an old map document. Where is it? Seems somewhere. Additional readings. There we go. On the other, so here's just a link that I inserted. And it'll require me to log in with my Jessup because it's going straight to the library. Oh, I'm already logged in. Yeah. And if you're accessing that through the library, it can take you to a specific chapter and even a specific section of papers or other content that you want. So it's a great resource for linking directly to reading content that you want them to read. You can use this with Bible Gateway and link directly to like an entire chapter or something of a specific version. But to the folder thing, you can also do this with Google Drive. So if you have folders that you want to share in Google Drive, for example, EdTech has like a public folder that we throw content in there that just anybody can have access to. I'm sure drives. What you can do is you can make that folder, you can create a folder in Google Drive, and you can do this on your Windows computer by using the Google Drive app. And you can, from in the web interface, you do have to do this part in the web interface. From in the web interface, you can click on that folder, right click, share. You have to make sure you set the permissions to who you want access to. So this right now, it's set to anybody who's logged in with a William.Jessup domain. So anybody on campus that has logged in with their Jessup credentials can access this folder, can be a viewer. You can change to what they can do. You can change if you want to restrict it to individuals or entire. I guess they've not allowed you to make it completely public, but all of Jessup. And then what you can do is in share, you can grab that URL. You can copy link. And then here you can paste that link. And that will take them to that folder. So you were asking about sharing a folder of contents. If you already have that created on your computer, this is a great way to put that folder there and allow them to access that. So now EdTech resources are a link there. They can click on that and it'll open up that Google Drive folder where they can click on individual contents or download it things like that. I'm sorry we ran out of time. But I know other people, there are other things that you probably want to see. You're welcome to stick around for another session. We might get through more, maybe not, we'll see. But thank you all for joining me today.